Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to be talking about something that I've had quite a fair bit of experience with in both good and bad situations. Now, I'm currently filming this on the last day of February in 2021, as you can see in the bottom of the screen there. And in a couple of months, well, saying a couple of months, we're still obviously on lockdown at this particular moment in time, but the rumours are that restrictions are going to start being lifted within the next couple of months, which is a good thing. Now, with that comes the inevitable surge to get back to normal, which is absolutely fine. And one of the things as an outdoor instructor that is normal, for want of a better word, is the Duke of Edinburgh's award. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the Duke of Edinburgh's award, it was set up several years ago, and we're talking probably even the 60s, I think, 1960s, by the Duke of Edinburgh, as an award, as an extracurricular award for underprivileged kids. It's not quite the same as it was when it was set up in the 1960s, but that's not the subject for this video. The subject for this video is the kit list that the Duke of Edinburgh board generally provides every year. Now, as both an outdoor instructor and an outdoor retail worker, I have seen this kit list get beyond ridiculous at times. I remember one year seeing a kit list that was 3 sides of A4. Now, bearing in mind that the Duke of Edinburgh is set up for teenagers between the ages of 14, and it actually goes up to 25. You can do it up to your 25th birthday, but it's primarily focused on teenagers. And it's 3 sides of A4, and you're supposed to carry it in a 65-litre rucksack. And you've got to keep the weight to no more than 1/3 of your body weight. I'll let that sink in. So you've got a 65-litre bag on your back. You're a 14-year-old with a 65-litre bag on your back. 3 sides of A4 equipment, and you'll see some of the equipment that you've got to carry. And you've got to have it weigh about 1/3 of your body weight, between 1/3 and 1/4 of your body weight. Pretty damn difficult. Okay, it's not the worst. It's never been the worst kit list I've seen. However, the worst kit list I've seen, I'm not going to mention names for liable reasons or slander reasons, whichever it is when you're talking about it. I can't remember which. But there was one kit list that I saw that was so out of date that the rucksack that was recommended in that kit list had not been produced in 5 years. So basically this company was just going, right, we've got a new expedition coming up, let's send the kit list out. Do we need to check it? Nah, just send it as it is. And like I say, the rucksack that they were recommending hadn't been produced in 5 years. It's produced now, it's produced again now, because people were demanding it, basically, and so the company that made the rucksack finally gave in and started producing it again. But again, as I say, I'm not mentioning names here for liable or slander reasons, whichever it is. I ain't that smart when it comes to things like that. Anyway, as you can see up in the top left corner of the screen there, I've got Duke of Edinburgh kit list January 21. We will be going through that, and I will be pulling up what they recommend on Google Images, just to have a look. I have had a brief look through this, and there are some things I recommend and say, yeah, that's a good idea. And there are some things I would say, well, that's kind of stretching it a bit. Okay, without further ado, let's get on with it. Let's click on to the Duke of Edinburgh kit list. Now, there are 3 things on any kit list, regardless of who writes it, regardless of who it's for, that you must spend time not only getting fitted properly, but you must make sure they are comfortable, because it will absolutely kill any enjoyment that you have. And those 3 items on any kit list: walking boots. They must be broken in. You can't buy them the day before. You must not buy a pair of walking boots the day before. You'll end up with blisters, with sores, and you'll end up with bad feet, and you will end up having a bad time. So you absolutely must buy a pair of boots in advance, and they must be broken in. I cannot state that enough. Second thing that you must spend time fitting properly, and if you can, same with the boots, spend as much money as you can on this, because it's going to be on your back for anything up to 6 to 8 hours a day. It must be comfortable, and that is a rucksack. Okay, don't worry about these. We will have a look at what these are, but you don't have to buy these specific ones. They're just recommended. If they don't fit you properly, don't buy them. It's quite simple. And last but not least, the last thing that you must absolutely spend time getting absolutely right, because you're going to be sleeping in it and therefore it needs to be comfortable: sleeping bag, and to a lesser degree, sleeping mat. I'll come on to sleeping mats in a second, but sleeping bag, it again must be warm, must be comfortable, and you need to be able to carry it. It needs to fit inside a rucksack, inside your rucksack. I've been on Duke of Edinburgh training expeditions, or I've overseen Duke of Edinburgh training expeditions, where people's sleeping bags have been borrowed from their mum or from their dad, and the damn thing takes up half the rucksack. I'm not kidding. You got a 65-litre rucksack and half of it is taken up with the sleeping bag, and you're thinking, where's everything else going to go? So make sure that you got the correct sleeping bag for what you need. You don't need an Arctic sleeping bag if you're doing the bronze expedition. It's very unlikely you're going to be going anywhere too cold, but at the same time, you don't want just a cotton sheet to sleep in. You need something decent, something middle of the range, again depending on which expedition you're doing, whether it's bronze, silver or gold. The sleeping bags they recommend there, come on, highlight. The sleeping bags they recommend there, they are actually pretty good, and we will have a look at them. And again, it depends on the sleeping bag. It depends on the expedition you're doing. Sleeping mat. Again, it is part of the sleeping system, if you like, and you need to make sure that it's and you need to make sure that you actually have got a sleeping mat. When you look at a sleeping bag, most of the insulation is actually on the top, where it should be, and it's quite thin on the bottom. Now, word of caution, okay? Sleeping mats, with a few exceptions, the sleeping mats that most people go for are designed to insulate from the ground but not provide comfort. You've all seen, or most of you would have seen, the foam mattresses that people sleep on, the thin foam mats that people sleep on. That is for insulation. It doesn't provide an awful lot of comfort. unless you go for the really thick ones. But then if you're going for the really thick ones, that's going to take up a lot of room, and it is heavier. It's not much heavier, but it is heavier. Of course, if you've watched my video on the inflatable sleeping mats, there are ways around it, of course. There are also the self-inflating mats, but I personally would not recommend them for a Duke of Edinburgh, simply because they have a habit of getting damaged. That's it. That's all I'll say on the matter. Right, so with those three out of the way, let's go through this kit list and see what they say. Now, bit of insider knowledge here, where it says save 10% or more Duke of Edinburgh at 5 DFE recommended retailers. Go Outdoors, Blacks, Millets and Ultimate Outdoors are all owned by the same company. Whether Tizo or Tizo, however it's pronounced, is also owned by that company, I don't know. So, yeah, just a little bit of insider knowledge. That's why Go Outdoors, Blacks, Millets, and Ultimate Outdoors can all offer that discount. Right, one pair of walking boots broken in. Absolutely, 100% agree on that. Right, let's have a look. High-tech Eurotrek lights. Now, I wonder if, as you can see, I've already looked it up, and it is, this is a development of the high-tech Eurotrek, which was an absolutely fantastic boot back in the day. The only issue with that boot was not waterproof. This boot is. I personally wouldn't say that this was a full boot. I would say it was more of a mid boot, just because of the way the top comes down there. That's just a me thing, though. I would class it more of a mid boot than a full boot. It's a leather. It's a very soft leather, which has its advantages and disadvantages. Soft leather means it's easier to break in. But it does wear out quickly. So if, for example, you were to buy a pair of these, looking to go all the way through to your gold expedition, they may not last into your gold expedition. It's not just because of the softness of the leather. It's also because of the way people's feet grow. You might grow out of them. In terms of what I would recommend, in terms of would I recommend these? Yeah, absolutely. I would totally 100% recommend these. They're not that expensive. So if, for example, you grow out of them before you can use them on your silver or gold, you've not lost a huge amount of money. Right. The Eurotrek 3, I think, was the third generation of the one I was talking about. In fact, yeah, it is. It is the third generation. Again, you can see it looks very, very similar there, but it's just a slightly higher boot, or sorry, slightly stiffer boot. Again, I'm not sure. Yeah, these ones are waterproof. So basically, you got the one we just looked at, which I would class as a mid boot, and then you got these ones, which are I would class as a full boot, just because they're slightly stiffer. Out of the two of them, I would probably recommend these ones over the lights. Right, the Aesgarth waterproof boots, which I've also looked for. This is essentially the fabric version of the Eurotrek. Essentially, there are some differences. You've got the rubber toe cap, and you've got the rubber ankle support there. It is fabric, so that means that it's easier to break in, tends to be lighter, but being fabric, tends to wear out a little bit quicker. So just bear that in mind. And also, it's not leather. Can't remember what it's made out of. Might be nubuck, but it's not a leather, as it were. Right, the Summit. I think this might be a Peter Storm, actually. Summit boot. Yeah, you wouldn't want a pair of them. You don't need a pair of them for Duke of Edinburgh. You don't need any of them for Duke of Edinburgh. Okay, it's actually high tech. Okay, yeah. So again, this is a full boot. Looking at it, it's a full boot. Obviously, it's waterproof. Yeah. Just another option for you, basically. Looks like it's got locking eyelets, actually, which is a good thing. So basically, it just holds the boots a bit closer together for you. Summit, Bandera. I think all of these are actually high tech. Yeah, they are. Bandera Light. Would help if I could spell. Okay, so again, another fabric pair of boots, full boots. Yeah, fully waterproof, full boots, fabric. Obviously, keep in mind what I said about the other fabric boots and leather boots. So yeah, they've actually got some good recommendations there, but you don't have to go for the ones that they recommend on there. You don't have to if they don't fit. If they don't fit, if they don't feel comfortable, you don't have to go for them. It is your choice at the end of the day. Right. Walking socks. Now, all of these, all the Bridgetail ones, the midweight, the lightweight, the ultralight, merino, I'm not going to pull them up. But they are good. And again, this is a personal thing. Some people will go with one pair of socks. Some people will go with two pairs of socks on their feet. It's a personal thing. I would always recommend two pairs of socks. A thin pair and a thick pair. To help prevent blisters. It doesn't stop blisters, but it helps prevent blisters. Any of these socks are good. As with all of these, avoid cotton if you can. Wool, silk, and synthetic are best. Avoid cotton if you can. Cotton absorbs sweat, absorbs moisture, but it doesn't get rid of it very easily. Now they say sock liners here. That's their that's the very, very thin pair of socks. There is a way around that. Of course, you can get double layer socks that work in exactly the same way as two pairs of socks. Again, I personally go just for the double layer socks. It's a personal thing. You must try different setups to find which is most comfortable for you and which works best for you. Okay, what works for some people doesn't work for others, and you've got to remember that at all times. Okay, moving on. The jacket and coat, waterproof and windproof. Yes, it absolutely has to be. If you really want to take your barber jacket, your thick wax coat, by all means do it, but remember you're the one carrying it, and it is heavy in comparison to what these will be. Okay, Crag Hopper Orion jacket. Let's have a look at it. Okay, yeah, lightweight. It's actually a lot better design than I was expecting from Crag hopper. Usually £170. Fairly expensive. What's the... Yeah, so that's sort of the top end of your budget. But you've got fully waterproof jacket there with a hood, volume reducers, which are these things on there on the side there, so you can pull the hood in a little bit better. Lightweight, waterproof, yeah, it'd be ideal for what you want as a Duke of Edinburgh expedition jacket. What's the other ones they recommend? The Atlas. Okay, I just looking at this, it's just an aesthetic thing. I don't like the look of this one. Doesn't mean it's a bad jacket, I just don't like the look of it. £137, so slightly better. For that, I would imagine that it's not as waterproof. Now, when I say not as waterproof, what I mean is a very technical term, and I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but basically waterproofing is measured as what's known as hydrostatic head. The bigger the number, the more waterproof something is. If something is waterproof in the UK, or for something to be waterproof in the UK, has to have a hydrostatic head of 1500 millimeters. So these jackets will be waterproof, but I should imagine, without going into detail again and without looking at it, I should imagine this would have a hydrostatic head of anywhere between 4 and 5000 millimeter hydrostatic head, and the other one we were just looking at, the Orion, will probably have something up to 10,000 millimeter hydrostatic head, depending. So the Orion is just slightly better in that sense. Doesn't mean to say you're going to get wet. Right, what was the other one? The Explore jacket. So see the ladies one. This would probably be the one that most people go for. It is £100. So same thing. Probably not quite as waterproof. It's got nice pockets on there though. Probably not quite as waterproof. Oh, it's got the aqua dry material as well. Okay. Okay, so that means it dries a little bit quicker. But yeah, I mean, again, good choice of jacket. Fully waterproof. Again, with the £100, £100, I should imagine the hydrostatic head is somewhere around about 2,500 millimeters. I don't know this for certain. I'm just guessing. Okay, Crag Hopper Ascent over trousers. Again, you don't have to go for these. Okay, so with any waterproof trouser, I tend to find they get too hot, regardless of which ones I go for. But I always take a pair anyway. Now, with the over trousers, with the Ascent over trousers, just looking at these, again, you are going to need to take them. But yeah, again, you don't have to stick with these ones. Again, get ones that feel comfortable, or at least feel slightly comfortable, because you could be walking in a pair of these all day. But yeah, how much are they charging for those? Oh, that looks like they're discounted, so £31.49. Yeah, not bad. Again, looking at them, they're not going to be hugely durable, but the fact that you're not going to be wearing them, all the time, probably means they don't need to be durable. Okay, 2 fleece tops. Do you really need 2 fleece tops? Do you? If you're going on a bronze expedition, probably not, because you're only going to be out for one night. Silver, probably push it with 1 fleece top. It's only to keep you warm at night, or only to keep you warm when you stopped. Depends on how cold you get. 1 fleece top would be enough for me. There are people out there that would need 2, but again, it depends on how cold you get. 2 to 3 t-shirts, wrong. Definitely not. As I said before, you definitely do not want cotton. Absolutely 100% do not get cotton. So where they're saying t-shirts there, what they should be saying is technical t-shirts. Okay, and there is a difference, and hopefully you'll see the difference when I put this in. Atmos t-shirt. Okay, so this is not made from cotton. The material in here wicks away sweat, gets rid of it from your skin, passes it through the layers. Cotton does not do that. It will hold on to any sweat, any moisture, and it will make you feel very uncomfortable. Okay, so you're looking at something like this. You don't have to go for the Atmos t-shirt. Is just what they recommend. Various colours there, but yeah, do not wear cotton t-shirts. You will regret it. Yeah. Do you need 2 or 3? Again, depends on your personal preference and which expedition you're doing. If you're doing the bronze, obviously you only need 2 because you're going to be out for 2 days. If you're doing silver, think about 3. If you're doing your gold, again, it's personal preference really. You got to weigh up the weight and the size and how many days you're going to be out for. I mean, for example, I know people who've done 10-day expeditions and they've only taken 2 t-shirts, and all they do is they swap them over every day. Okay, moving on. 2 pairs of walking trousers, not jeans. Absolutely 100% agree. Not jeans. Never jeans. Jeans, when they get wet, they get heavy, they chafe, and they take forever to dry out. And out of all of them, chafing is the worst. Okay, it rubs your skin raw. So absolutely not jeans. Also, if it starts, if you get caught in heavy rain, jeans being made of cotton will start slowly sapping body heat away from you. So again, although they're recommending Crag hopper here, a pair of walking trousers, specific walking trousers. Okay, now you can get zip-off trousers, which I personally prefer, so that when I start getting overheated, I unzip the legs and it makes gets me cool, lets me vent. But it's up to you. You don't have to. Obviously, they're recommending Crag hopper Verve trousers and Velocity tights there. Again, you don't have to go for them. Okay. one pair of shorts. Well, if you get a pair of zip-off trousers, you've already got the shorts. Underwear and nightwear, I'm not going to go into that. Flip-flops or sandals. Again, this is optional. Okay. If you're planning on showering, which I do recommend, some campsites that are used don't have a shower. But your flip-flops, I would definitely take a pair because of all the nasties on the potentially on the shower floor. Warm hat and or sun hat as appropriate. Again, personal preference. I personally, because I'm bald, I would actually take I'd actually take a buff, because it does both sun hat, helps keep some warmth in, so I'll probably take a warm hat as well. But yeah, I'd definitely take some hats. Again, personal preference, but you definitely want a warm hat at night, especially if you're a cold sleeper. Pair of gloves, take a thin pair of gloves, even if you don't think you're going to need them. You might find them useful in other ways. And a pair of gaiters. I personally don't like gaiters. That's just a personal thing. I don't like gaiters. Moving on. Rucksack. I've already been through the rucksacks. I've already said spend the time, spend the money, spend the effort on making sure it fits and it's comfortable. Remember, this thing is going to be on your back for anything up to 8 hours. Needs to be comfortable. The Van Gogh Contour and Sherpa rucksacks are fantastic bags for this. Sherpa 65. They are fantastic bags for this. There we go. As you can see, it's pretty much a standard 65 litre rucksack. Some main compartment, bottom compartment, 2 side compartments, belt. I think there's also a couple of net mesh pockets in there as well, and obviously the outermost pocket as well. Very popular rucksack for Duke of Edinburgh. It's changed its design over the time. As you can see, this is the Sherpa 65. I don't know which version this is. I think it might be a couple of years old, this one. But as you can see, the design has changed slightly, or the aesthetics has changed, but the design hasn't. So there's that one. What was the other one? Was it the Contour? Yeah, the Contour. Contour is a slightly different rucksack. Would help if I could spell. Now the Contour is a slightly different rucksack. It's actually designed more for women. Doesn't mean to say that men can't use it, but it is designed more for women, just because it's slightly narrower backed. And the shoulder straps are designed slightly differently. Might look like there's missing side pockets, but these are actually bellows side pockets, so these actually come out here. They actually do come out. They swell out slightly. Again, as I've already said, you don't have to go for these. They are just recommendations. But please make sure that whatever you're going to use fits properly. Rucksack liner. Now, I've already done a video on this, and why you shouldn't use bin bags or plastic bags as rucksack liners. Please use something like the Life Venture dry bags or the compression sacks. Please do not use bin bags. They are just not strong enough or waterproof enough. if you go back through my videos, you'll see me do, well, you'll see me show you basically why bin bags aren't suitable. Right, moving on. Sleeping bags, again, as I said with the rucksacks, spend as much time, money and effort on sleeping bags as you can, because you will be spending anything up to 8 hours inside one. Before I go on and we look at some of these sleeping bags, people complain that sleeping bags are not warm enough. Those people tend to not be using their sleeping bags correctly. How do you use a sleeping bag correctly? I can hear people ask, don't you just get in it and it keeps you warm? Yes and no. Sleeping bags are designed to absorb your body heat. So, if you have got your t-shirt on, your fleece on, your second fleece on, your jacket on, and the blanket around you, and you get inside your sleeping bag can't absorb your body heat because your body heat is not getting to the sleeping bag. So what you need to do is sleep ideally in just a pair or just thermals, and best thing to do, and honestly best thing to do, is go for a run around the campsite. Quick run around the campsite before you get into your sleeping bag. That way you warm yourself up. More body heat, more heat for the sleeping bag to absorb. Right. On that note as well, as I said at the beginning, you don't need an Arctic sleeping bag for what you're going to be doing. For the majority of the time, you'll be fine with at least with a 2 to 3 season sleeping bag. If you're doing a bronze, you probably get away with the 2 season sleeping bag. If you're doing silver, probably best to have a look at a 3 season sleeping bag. Okay, so Van Gogh Nightstar shouldn't have changed. No, it hasn't. So it's a 2 season sleeping bag. It's a very popular sleeping bag. Reason being is because it's relatively, I say relatively cheap, but provides everything you need for what you're going to be doing, bronze and silver. Synthetic bag, so it doesn't compress anywhere near as much as a down sleeping bag would. It is heavier, but the advantage of the synthetic bag, which is what a Nightstar is that it is water resistant. Not waterproof, but is water resistant. So if it gets wet, it will keep you warm to a degree. Down sleeping bags are generally not recommended for Duke of Edinburgh, mainly because of the price. Down sleeping bags are warmer, lighter, they compress up a lot more, but they are a hell of a lot more expensive. You're talking at least £150, and they tend to, if they get wet, they stop working, essentially. So you're best off sticking with the synthetic. So Nightstar is a good choice, as is the Latitude, the Ultralight Pro. In fact, they're all good sleeping bags. But like you say, look for a 2 to 3 season sleeping bag, and make sure it fits inside the rucksack. Actually, saying that, I didn't think to say, but let's go back to the contour. When you pack in your rucksack, do not put your sleeping bag outside the rucksack. If it rains, your sleeping bag gets wet, and then you're going to be wet all throughout the night. That is what this compartment here is for a sleeping bag. Now, personal story, the sleeping bag I use at the moment, the synthetic sleeping bag I use at the moment, which is Mountain Hardwear Laminar 20, when it's packed up into its stuff sack, is actually too small for most of these. So I end up not only putting my sleeping bag in there, but I end up putting my first aid kit in there as well. Controversially. Now, that is a big controversy, because most people say put your first aid kit in the top. I've had massive arguments with people over this. Again, I'm not going to go into it here. I've been into massive arguments with it. Like I say, my personal sleeping bag at the moment takes up so little room in there that I put my first aid kit in there as well. But that's just a personal story. Trust me, you don't want to be looking at the Mountain Hardwear Laminar 20. Mainly because yeah, $139. How much are they charging for it? Oh, that's actually gone down in price. When I got mine, it was nearly 150 quid. That's the Laminar 30. But yeah, it's an expensive bag. It's a good bag. Don't get me wrong, it's a very good bag. But yeah, it was expensive. Seems to have gone down in price, so it might actually be worth checking it out. But yeah, that's my sleeping bag. But yeah, any of those. Sleeping mat. You get the very thin foam mattress, foam mats. Remember, they don't provide a lot of comfort. They are there just to provide insulation. You can also get the self-inflating mats. They are heavy. They are bulky. They provide a lot of insulation and a little bit of comfort. So it's a trade-off. If you want to go for a little bit of comfort, absolutely fine. But remember, you are going to be the one that's carrying it. Waterproof bag. Well, if you're carrying rucksack liners, you wouldn't really need a waterproof bag. It's up to you though. Sleeping bag liner. Now, if you're borrowing a sleeping bag, and I wouldn't recommend borrowing a sleeping bag because most people store their sleeping bags wrong or incorrectly, and you won't have a comfortable night. Again, it's up to you. But if you're borrowing a sleeping bag, definitely get a liner. If you're buying your own sleeping bag, it's a good idea. And that you can throw a sleeping bag liner straight in the wash. You don't need to go to a laundrette or anything like that. Entirely up to you. I personally don't like them because I end up getting all tangled up in them. But that's a me thing, not a kit list thing. Whistle, absolutely 100% agree. Get a whistle. Get a plastic whistle. Plastic or aluminium whistle. Reason being is most people hang their whistles from their compasses, and obviously you don't want to interfere with the bearing on a compass. Torch. Now, I would personally go for a head torch. There's nothing wrong with a handheld torch, but I would personally go for a head torch. If you're going to go for both, some people do go for both. If you're going to go for both, try and make sure that the batteries, that they all run off the same battery, so either AA or AAA or whatever. Again, Life Systems one. Personally, I'd go Petzl. I would go Petzl just because they are slightly cheaper. Slightly cheaper. There you go. £20. They do go up. Do go up to stupid prices. But you're looking at Petzeltika, Takina. Yeah. So that again, that's just a personal thing. If you want to go for a Life Systems, what do they recommend? Life Systems intensity 260. Oh, it's actually the same price. Okay. But it's entirely up to you. Entirely up to you which one you go for. I would personally go for a head torch, like I say. The great advantage with a head torch, particularly one like that, is you can actually wear it around your neck as well. You can wear one of these around your neck, but obviously you've got the head strap that goes over the top of your head, can get in the way a little bit. But again, it's a personal thing, and they can go from anywhere from, well, there you go, £17 all the way up to ridiculous amounts. But it's entirely up to you which one you go for. Personal first aid kit, absolutely. That also includes personal medication. So anything like asthma inhalers, EpiPens, anything like that, that goes in there as well. Okay, that is included in that. Food, including emergency rations. Well, you're not going to survive on fresh air and optimism, so yeah, food. Whichever one you go for, it's entirely up to you. Obviously, dietary preferences and things like that, I'm not going to go into too much detail. You get the Wayfarer ready-to-eat expedition food. It is good stuff. It's a lot better now than it once was. But yeah, food is a personal thing. I'm not going to go into it, but there's plenty of options out there. If nothing satisfies your dietary needs, there are ways around it. There's always going to be a way around it. Water bottle. Now, controversially, I'm going to say something that many people would not agree with. You would be recommended to take 2 litres of water, absolutely perfectly fine. And these, the water bottles recommended here, what's it called? Triton flask. See, things like this, absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with them whatsoever. And again, I've actually done a blog on this. There is an issue with things like this. There is an issue with this. If that is in your bag, even if it's in the side pocket, people have an issue with stopping to take a bottle out, have a drink. People end up dehydrated that way. However, I will say to carry one of them as a backup. Okay? So one of them, and then one of these. Now, it doesn't matter which one you go for. One of these. Okay, now this is a 2 litre one. Okay, and that would be the minimum I would recommend on your back. Okay, with one of those you can drink whilst you are walking. That way you are less risk of dehydration. The only issue with these is if it's in your bag, you don't know how much you've drunk until it's empty, which is why if you're going to have one of these, and I personally would recommend one of these, if you're going to have one of these, carry one of these. Yeah, because if you run out of on the hydration system, you've still got 1 litre backup. Yes, you are carrying 3 litres of water, which equals 3 kilos, but you're going to be drinking it. Swings and roundabouts. And in this case, water is important. Just my personal thing. Cutlery. Now, cutlery, plate, bowl, mug. I'll make this very, very simple for you. Get a spork. That's it. If you want to be fancy and get a titanium spork, absolutely fine. Get a spork. Done. Plate and bowl, get a bowl. I've never ever needed anything other than a bowl. If you want a plate, fine, take a plate. But honestly, I've never needed anything more than a bowl. Personal preference. Mug, yeah, absolutely, always go for a mug. You don't have to go for titanium. Titanium mugs are quite expensive. Ellipse mugs are nice, actually. But again, it's up to you. If you're going to go for a metal mug, however, remember, metal conducts heat. So if you're having a hot drink, remember, yeah, I've seen people burn their lips because they've forgotten that. So you're better off. In this case, you are better off with a plastic mug, but it's entirely up to you. Box of matches, yep. Wash kit, personal hygiene kit. I'm not going to go into that. That's entirely up to you. Sunblock. I never carried sunblock, and I never carried sunblock for a very specific reason. I'm actually allergic to zinc oxide, and the primary ingredient in sunblock is zinc oxide. So I never carried it. Doesn't mean to say you can't. I just never did. A towel. Yeah, but don't go for a massive one because it will take up a lot of space. Remember, you are carrying all of this. Small quantity of money. Now, this is an interesting one. I would still say to carry a small quantity of money because in some parts of the country you won't get a mobile phone signal. This is a hangover from the days of pre-mobile phones. And the idea was, if you had a small quantity of money, you could go to a pay box or a phone box, put your money in, and you'd still be able to call for help. Obviously, that's taken over these days by mobile phones and actually decent coverage. However, there are rules surrounding use of mobile phones on Duke of Edinburgh. Notebook and pencil, not a pen. Pencil, excuse me. The reason you take a pencil and not a pen is, again, if it's raining, ink will run and you may not be able to read what you've written. Pencil will write on wet paper if you're careful enough. A watch, it's personal preference, I suppose. Group kit. Most of this group kit will be provided by the organizer. So not going to go into too much detail with this one. Tents, normally they do go for the Van Gogh range, simply because Van Gogh's the recommended equipment supplier. Also tends to be the easiest, one of the easier tents to set up. The Transier Stoves, yeah, absolute classic stoves, used all over the place. I love and I hate the Transier Stoves. Again, I'm not sure if I've done a video on this, but I've definitely done a blog on it. I both love and loathe the Transier. For Duke of Edinburgh expeditions, there is nothing better than a Transier, because although it is massive and it is relatively heavy, there are no working parts to break, and it is very, very, very stable. but it is slow, and it's bulky, and it's heavy. Right, cooking pans, they're contained with the Transier. Fuel bottle, usually most people go with 1 litre, which is fine. Scourers, usually supply your own. Tin opener, you should be carrying a penknife on one of these expeditions. A tin opener should be on there. If it's not, then obviously you can get expedition tin openers. Yeah, so little army style ones like that. Yeah, they're good. They do work. Take a little bit of working out, but they do work and they are fantastic. The design hasn't changed in 80 odd years, so they must be doing something right. Tea towel, well, yeah, because you're going to be washing up. Plastic bags for rubbish, etc. Yes and no. I would say personally take paper bags, but being environmentally conscious, because once you get to your gold, you have to be environmentally conscious. Most of the times you will be staying on campsites which will have a rubbish bin, but yeah, obviously you need to cart leftover stuff over to the bin itself. Toilet paper and trowel. If you're going to take toilet paper, you're not going to need a huge amount. As for a trowel, yeah, if you need to go to the toilet, then you do need to cover it up properly. Maps should be provided by the organizer, and they should be the 1 to 25, particularly for bronze and silver, because of the detail provided. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but they should be provided at 1 to 25. Compasses, again, should be provided by the organizer, but I would also personally buy my own compass, and if you can get hold of them, I would recommend a Silver Ranger. Reason being, the classic compass, and this is just a personal thing. If you look at the classic compass, the base plate is not that big. Therefore, if you're setting a bearing, which you will not be doing on bronze unless anything's changed, if you're setting a bearing, this base plate to me is just a bit too small. That's again just a personal thing. If you look at this, and then look at the Ranger compass, you can see the base plate is much bigger, so you get more accuracy over a longer distance. That would be the one I would recommend. I wouldn't recommend an Expedition 4. The only reason I wouldn't recommend an Expedition 4 is because you start getting expensive. You're looking, there you go, 21 pound up to 31 pound, 36 pounds. There is a military version of this, just to make you aware. There is a military version of this, and there it is, which you won't need, and it is very expensive. It's £30. It's actually not that bad. This, if you're going to go for an expedition, make sure you get the civilian one, not the military one, mainly because you won't be able to use it. I'm not going to go into detail why, but the military one uses a different set of it uses a different, it doesn't use degrees. All the other compasses use degrees. The military one doesn't. The reason being is the military one is designed to be more accurate over distance. Okay, map cases definitely, but again they should be supplied. Camera, yeah. I mean, you got your foams, tick remover, very location dependent. If you get a tick remover, it should also have the instructions to remove ticks. I don't know what to say about removing ticks by yourself. I've always been taught that you have to remove the ticks. And a tool is the best option. But you must come with the instructions, otherwise you'll end up doing more harm than good. And a survival bag. Yep, absolutely. Survival bag. Probably 2, ideally, between the group. You're best off with a bag rather than a blanket, because a blanket you can still lose heat out of. A bag you'll still lose heat out of, but it's more thermally efficient. Okay, additional optional kit. This is just for you to consider. Most of this stuff you probably won't need. Head, neck scarf, buff. Now, as I said previously, I would take one, but that's because I'm bald. 2 litre hydration pack. I've literally just been through why you should use the hydration pack rather than water bottle. Storm shelter, not necessarily. If you've got your tents, and you really need to shelter from the rain quickly, just put the outer tent up and get in that. Stove multi-disc, that's for cutting and things like that. If you're going to be taking things like the pre-prepared expedition food, you won't need it. But if you're taking things like cake or things like that, and yes, I have seen people take cake or malt loaf or anything like that, you will need a cutting board. However, there is a frying pan on the Transier that can be used as a cutting board if you need it. Small pocket tool. Now, this shouldn't be optional, this should be mandatory. Proper penknife. Obviously, there are laws surrounding the sale of penknives, so you might not be able to buy them yourself. After sun cream. If you look after yourself properly, you won't need after sun cream. Sunglasses, completely optional. Now, all of this stuff at one point was actually mandatory and you had to carry it. But they've obviously seen sense, and you don't have to carry this stuff if you don't need it. Insect repellent. Word of caution with insect repellent. Some people are allergic to it. So make sure you test out, you check it out on your skin before you buy any, or before you start using it in quantity. Bite and sting relief. The best thing I've ever found, I don't know if they still make them, bite and sting relief. There used to be a little, it's a piezo ignition, so the same type of thing that lights a gas cooker. They used to do that, and 5 clicks of that on the bite would actually stop the swelling and actually help with the itching. Not stop it, but help it. Waterproofing. Now, if you bought your waterproof jacket brand new and everything brand new, it won't need it. It's always useful to do it, but it won't need it until you come back home. There is a proper way to re-waterproof your waterproofs as well. You can't just bung it in the washing machine and hope for the best. There is a proper way of doing it. However, saying that, if you've broken your boots in, and you've broken your boots in properly, as you should have done, you will need to give them a clean and a reproof, or at least the outside. Most waterproofings, there are exceptions, most waterproofings are actually a lining within the boot. So what you're doing is you're protecting the outside, you're not protecting the waterproofing itself. Any of these, where are we? Any of these that I've highlighted there are suitable for boots. Again, you don't have to do it before you go, but it's a good idea. And it's always a good idea to maintain your boots, because your boots are the #1 thing that will keep you going. String, no. Spare boot laces, why? If you break your lace, if you break your lace, tie the lace together. It might not be comfortable, but it will keep it going until you can get back. Ball, playing cards, it's up to you. I have seen people take playing cards. I haven't got a problem with it. Keeps you entertained at night, after all. Mosquito net. The only reason you would need to take a mosquito net in the UK is if you are allergic to mosquito bites. Remember, none of the mosquitoes we have here carry any diseases. Yes, they're annoying, but they do not carry diseases. So unless you're allergic to the bites, no need for it. Right, emergency light sticks. If you're doing your bronze or your silver, if you're doing your bronze, you probably won't need them, because you're not that far from civilization. Silver, consider it, and gold, carry at least one, just in case. Wart purification tablets. See, this was one of the things that I had a big argument with people. If you're doing your bronze expedition and you need to use water purification tablets, something has gone seriously wrong, because your bronze expedition is a 15-kilometer walk overall, with one overnight stay in a campsite, and it's not that far from civilization. Your silver expedition is slightly more remote, and is it a 30-kilometer expedition? I think it's a 30-kilometer expedition. Somebody will correct me. Over 3 days, and it is in a slightly more wilderness environment. So yes, carry a couple of water purification tablets. Gold, you are in the wilderness, so I would recommend carrying water purification tablets. So there is steps, if you like. There are levels of which ones you go for. So, with all that being said, bearing in mind that you will have to carry whatever you take, you will have to carry. Okay, so you've got to keep that in mind. So, I've been through what I think about the current expedition list, or the current kit list. It is actually a lot better than what it was. All of this, and I mean every single thing on here, at one point was mandatory. You had to carry it, even if you didn't need it. And you needed to fit it in a 65-litre rucksack, and it had to be 1/3 to 1/4 of your body weight. Okay, so that's just, like I say, it's just a quick run through. Well, I say quick run through. That is a run through of this year's expedition list. As I say, it's actually gotten a lot better than what it was. Again, you don't have to stick with what they say. Get something that works for you, something that fits for you. Okay, I hope that's given some inspiration. I hope that's given some advice. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. And I shall see you next time. I've already got a video lined up for what I want to do next time. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.